Several years ago, while attending a conference, I listened to a presenter share with us how we as counselors and therapists can utilize our skills to move into different genres outside of therapy. She asked, regardless of money, what could you do all day if you had the opportunity to? I quickly raised my hand, and when acknowledged, I said, I could do ancestry research all day. And with matched enthusiasm, she responded, well, what have you found out so far? I don't think she knew what she was in for. I went full force into my family's story. I could spend hours telling her what was going on in my family and what I had figured out. I don't think anyone else got to share their what I would do all day story either. So while the passion was present then, it definitely didn't start that way. It literally was something I found in the middle of a field. At the time, I was a recent college graduate, ready to take on the world, but was barely lucky enough to find a part-time job. I started working at a local department store, and that summer, I took a position with the U.S. Census Bureau as an enumerator. Your job as an enumerator is to collect data on various residents. This particular day, I was in Statham, Georgia, off a dirt road at a residence for the second time. Knocked on the door, no one answered. The property appeared vacant, and so I didn't see any neighbors for a good distance, but in afar, I saw a farmer, or what appeared to be a farmer. I go trudging through thigh-high grass in pursuit of an answer about this residence. And the conversation went a little like this. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Tirrany Thurmond from the U.S. Census Bureau. I'm here to inquire about the residents nearby. You're a Thurmond? Yes, sir. Are you some kin to this person and that person? He started to name all these individuals. And I was a little confused and unfamiliar with the supposed kinfolk. I said, I'm just not really sure who you're referring to. The conversation went on for some time. He shared with me that the home that I was inquiring about belonged to his mother, who had passed away. I expressed my condolences, and my ear tuned in to the story that he began to share with me about the contributions my family made to the community. There used to be a gray, big old white house at that intersection up there. It belonged to another Thurmond family. They were white. I think the house has been uprooted now and moved to another city. I was completely enthralled. Where's this house that he speaks of? I was so immersed in the conversation that I was late to my department store job, and we all know how important that is. My ancestral research went on for several months. I researched every branch of my family tree like there were veins in my own body. I spent hours in the community library, hours in church cemeteries, slave cemeteries, and researching court records. I was even blessed enough to see my great-grandmother's Bible, where she documented birth dates, death dates, and even weddings. Who knew you can be inspired to a greater purpose through ancestral research? At the time, I certainly didn't. I was so immersed in our story that later on, my exploration led me to this amazing book, The History of the American Negro and His Institutions. It was published in 1917, and many of my ancestors are chronicled here. First, I found my fifth great-grandfather. Slavery left him poor and uneducated, but not defeated. After emancipation, he was able to move into a great farmhouse and cultivated over 250 acres of land and sent all 5 of his children to college. More pages led to a Renaissance man, a distant cousin, a songwriter, a poet, and a musician. He even traveled the country sharing his music. He was even able to travel not only the U.S., but to Canada as well. He was also noted as the inventor of the local merry-go-round. He created 2 of them, as a matter of fact. And then there was Professor Hunter, a gentleman whose character reminded me so greatly of myself, a credentialed educator, a social justice advocate like me, and a community leader. His biography read, he has not devoted his life to the makings of money, but to being a great asset to his denomination and his section of people. The resiliency and vibrancy of their lives inspired me. It helped me realize my life's own potential. Ancestry research can be a critical component to one's life and to her existence. While riddled with unfortunate circumstances and a harsh life, they helped me understand my own worth. In addition to inspiration, It can be great at assembling one's pieces to their own puzzle and help you answer questions that you didn't even know that you had. During my exploration, I also found out how my family came to settle in Statham, Georgia. My fifth great-grandfather, another fifth great-grandfather, was born in 1862 in present-day Edgefield, South Carolina. He migrated here to Augusta, Georgia, to the port of the Savannah River. While here, he was befriended by another Thurmond family. While history would lead us to believe that the relationship was forced, I have found that it was quite congenial. This family was white, taking in a young black man, and they settled in Statham, Georgia. I've spent hours researching my family lineage on the computer. I even was able to even work with individuals and record them on film and document them via pen and paper. Many have passed away since my exploration started, but their stories reside in my head, my heart, and pages of my journal. The unfortunate part about this is the more that I unveiled about my family story, the more of an oblivion I realized I lived in about the contributions of people of color to American history. Our people are heroes and heroines as well. My distant relative led the charge in Tuskegee, Alabama, when there was a voting rights ban on African Americans' votes. He sued the city of Tuskegee, and the court case was heard before the U.S. Supreme Court, the historic case of Gomillion versus Lightfoot. This was rooted in my family story, in my family tree, a story that I knew nothing about, but it was rooted in perseverance and resiliency, and I was quite impressed. Now, I want to be honest with you all. While the story to find out who you are is intriguing and inspirational and captivating, it's also very time-consuming. When I transitioned in my life, I was moving into a new career, I moved to a new state, took on a new job, working with new college students, and unfortunately my ancestry research had to fall by the wayside. But it wasn't until that fall semester when we were planning for our upcoming Black History Month program that, voila, Tracing Your Roots emerged. It was an opportunity for all of our students to participate in their ancestral research. There is power in knowing where you come from. My students were finding World War draft cards and calling grandparents to verify web information. The pieces of their puzzles were coming together. There's satisfaction in knowing that you found your people. They're not just any people, but they're your people. They belong to you. My students were reintroduced to familiar family members and introduced to unfamiliar ones. Like me, I watched them find meaning in their lives. They began to develop a better understanding of themselves and who they had the potential to become. Who knew that ancestry research could be so impactful to one's self-worth? Ancestry research can be an empowering experience that provides texture to our lives. It encompasses and helps us encompass an understanding of our traditions, values, and oneself. My ancestral research and my discoveries taught me that despite hardships and losses, my people remain a testament to human adaptability and cultural survival. Even in the face of opposition, their resiliency produced me, my future family, my present family. Through my own journey, I learned that we come from spaces where our family members sacrifice with a great belief that their future must be greater than their now. And as we stand on the shoulders of these giants, we have a duty to match their contributions. So I challenge you all to get to know yours. Know your ancestors a little bit better. Learn a little bit more about yourself and where you have the potential to go. Thank you.